Mr. Watkins, are you personally involved in the testing that goes on later at the lab for things like gunshot residue?
No.
Did you make any effort while you were on the scene to try and determine if you could find any fingerprints of Valerie?
We did latent process the doors, the sliding glass doors, the accordion shutters, things that looked out of place that were conducive for latent processing. We did latent processing.
Could you explain to the members of the jury what latent processing means? What is that?
Latent processing uses a mechanical method. We use a very fine graphite black powder with a very fine brush. We brush it on the area that's we believe that it's conducive for fingerprints, and the actual black powder adheres to the ridges of your fingerprint that's left on the surface.
Are there different factors that can affect whether or not a fingerprint is actually going to be on an object that someone touched?
Yes, the surface itself of the person's skin. They may have dry skin that also inhibits the actual print from being left.
If a fingerprint is not present on a particular object, does that mean that a person may not have touched that object at all?
No, this means that even the fingers may have moved or may have left a smudge on the area. So.
Were you able to find any latents of value?
No.
One moment, Your Honor. During your investigation, did you notice, or did you identify or flag for yourself any areas where you thought there might be latent evidence, or fingerprint evidence?
Sliding glass doors, again, the accordion shutters in the living room and bedroom, master bedroom. We actually submitted a lot of items to our lab for latent identification, so a lot of the stuff we submitted to the lab.
So the master bedroom door, for example, was part of the purpose of impounding that door and taking it into evidence so that it itself could be sent to the lab for latent processing?
That's correct.
Would that apply also to the section of the door frame from the patio door?
That's correct.
Were there otherwise numerous areas where you made efforts or tried to get fingerprints, but there was just insufficient detail?
Or surface areas. A lot of the areas we DNA swabbed, like the handles on the doors, the drawers, and on the drawers that were pulled out. Yes.
And again, there was nothing of sufficient detail for you to be able to obtain a latent?
Correct.
No further questions this time.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Now, I just want to go through some of the items that you collected. Now, you collected the 2 shoe impressions, is that correct?
The castings, yes.
Okay. And based on those castings, were you able to determine a shoe size?
I don't determine that. It's sent to our lab where our ID section makes that determination.
Okay. And those 2 castings, could you tell if it was the complete shoe print or just a partial print?
Again, I just collected the casting and sent it to our lab for analysis. That would be someone in our lab that would make that determination.
And the print on the bedroom door, the shoe print that was on the bedroom door.
Yes.
Did you do any measuring of that shoe print?
We took a scale photograph of it on the door, and we also sent it to our lab to have that done as well.
Okay. But you yourself didn't perform any testing of that?
Just a scale photo.
Okay. From your scale photo, could you tell what shoe size it was?
No.
Now, your main role was to collect the evidence so it could be submitted for testing, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you arrived on the scene was already secured by other officers?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, were any of those shoe impressions made by the officers?
I don't know.
Is it possible that it could have been made by the officers?
Maybe.
Okay. Did you, were the first responding officers still on the scene when you arrived?
I don't know.
Did you speak with those officers or look at those officers' shoes at all?
No.
Now, other than going to the actual Cutler Road address, did you go to any other locations to collect evidence?
No, not that day.
And you never went to 804 Zana Drive to collect evidence?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever go to Mr. Rivera's home to collect any evidence?
No, I did not.
Were you ever asked to go to collect evidence?
No.
And approximately what time did you arrive at the scene to collect the exhibits that were shown to us?
I arrived at 6 a.m.
And what time did you depart?
at 7:30 p.m.
And to your knowledge, the items that were collected were the only items of physical evidence that were remained on the scene when you arrived?
Correct.
If I can have just one moment, Judge. Nothing further, Judge.
David, every direction.
No, we don't.
All right. Officer, Deputy, you may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Call your next witness.
This time, the state calls Officer Grossman.
Officer, if you follow me, please. If you'll stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand, he'll swear you in. You'll have a seat at the chair alongside the judge.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good
Have a seat there.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Begin so we can all hear you, and when you're ready, Mr. Rahul, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes, my name is Margaret Grossman. I'm a police officer with Miami-Dade Police Department.
How long have you been with the Miami-Dade Police Department?
January 1985.
And in what capacity do you currently work with the department?
I'm assigned to Forensic Services Bureau Crime Scene Unit.
And what are some of your responsibilities? Excuse me, it's been a long afternoon. What are some of your responsibilities in the Crime Scene Bureau?
I handle major cases, homicides, sexual batteries, grow houses, robberies, assaults, things of that nature.
And how long have you been with the Crime Scene Bureau?
I'm in my 22nd year.
Did you have an occasion, I want to draw your attention to November 26th of 2007. Do you remember that date?
Yes, sir.
Did you have an opportunity to respond to a residence located at 18050 Old Cutler Road in Miami?
Yes, I did.
And what was your purpose in responding to that?
I responded to assist Detective Watkins, who was the lead on the case.
In terms of being the lead crime scene technician, would he then delegate different responsibilities to the other crime scene technicians that are present?
Yes,
So you were not the lead on this particular case.
that is correct.
What was to be your responsibility that day at the homicide scene?
Detective Watkins asked me to collect some DNA swabs and a few other items of evidence from the scene.
How did you go about determining what would be some of the better areas to try and collect DNA evidence from?
I pretty much acted under his supervision. As the lead, he would ask me what he wanted me to do and where he wanted me to do it.
What particular areas did he direct you to swab for DNA?
I responded to different areas of the house. I collected DNA swabs from some of the patio walls, blinds in one of the bedrooms, drawer knobs, a trunk in one of the bedrooms, a window frame, an accordion handle.
Were there certain specific areas where you believe that there might be blood evidence and you also swabbed that for DNA?
Yes.
Should the defense seek for N for identification as a Nancy? Let's take a look at states 4N for identification. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It has my initials, my badge number, the date, the case number, and what's inside the package.
And what is that package of?
It contains 29 DNA boxes.
Are those all the DNA swabs and boxes that you collected that day at that crime scene?
Yes, sir.
This time the state used 4N as evidence.
This is the mark identification 4N on exhibit number 55.
Hearing no objection, it will be admitted.
Ms. Grossman, once you package all the DNA swabs and collect that scene, where do they go after that?
They go to our laboratory.
Are you personally involved in any of the specific DNA testing that occurs once you impound the swab or package the swabs and send them off to the lab?
No, sir, I'm not.
One moment, Judge. No further questions.
All right, President. All right, officer, you may be excused. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Okay, sorry,
Good
next.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
State calls Detective John Sable.
Sable?
Sable. S-A-B-L.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you are about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Detective Jonathan Sable,
How are you employed?
Miami-Dade Police Department,
How long have you been with the department?
approximately 17 years.
What is your current assignment?
I'm currently assigned to the Homicide Bureau.
As a homicide detective?
Yes,
How long have you been with the Homicide Bureau?
approximately 6 years.
What are some of your responsibilities as a homicide detective?
We investigate all natural suicides, unclassified accidents, and homicide deaths that occur in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, as well as certain municipalities that don't have homicide detectives.
I want to draw your attention to November 26th of 2007. Do you recall that date?
Yes,
Were you involved in the investigation of the homicide of the person who later became known to you as Sean Taylor?
yes.
How did you first become involved in that investigation?
I was contacted by Detective Bradgick, who works the midnight shift, and he advised me of the victim in this case, Sean Taylor, who was currently at the hospital, Jackson Memorial Hospital, at which time I responded to that location.
Okay. Were you the lead detective on this particular case?
No.
And what was your purpose in responding to Jackson Hospital?
To interview any family members pertaining to the investigation, and as well as collect a gunshot residue kit from one of the family members that was already there.
Which family member was that, do you recall?
Yes, Jacqueline Garcia.
Now, did you at any point in time in the investigation become involved with the medical examiner and their portion of the investigation into this homicide?
Yes, I did.
How did that come about?
This was the following day. I was requested by Sergeant Andrew and Detective Segovia to assist in the autopsy of Mr. Taylor.
Were you present for the autopsy itself?
Yes, I was.
What is your purpose in being present as a homicide detective at an autopsy?
It's to document the injuries as well as collect any evidence from the body and transport the evidence to the crime lab.
Did you collect any evidence from Sean Taylor's body in this particular case?
The doctor collected the evidence and passed it to me, yes.
And what was that?
It was a projectile.